Hey, what's up, people? It is Reaperator here, and today we are coming in with the Black Panther 2 Wakanda Forever review. Now, before I get into it, I just want to say sorry for the hiatus. I haven't uploaded in like 2 weeks, I think, at this point. Just school and life has been getting busy, but without further ado, let's get into this. So, first off, I just want to say with this, I'm not going to be uploading my usual non spoiler review because, it's been so long since the movie came out that I feel like it's not necessary at this point. But be warned, if you haven't seen it at this point, there are heavy spoilers for the entire film past this point. So, if you have not seen the movie, save this to your watch later and come back and watch it once you've seen it. So, the first thing, the big question coming into this movie is how are they going to handle this movie given that, unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman has passed in real life? And I would say, given the circumstances, this movie handled it in the best way possible. They didn't skip past the fact that he died. They even have the opening scene of the movie being them with the character of Black Panther dying, right? So they paid the tribute very well, and just the entire overall feel and vibe of the film was very emotional and very serious. I think this is probably the best Marvel movie we've seen in Phase 4, probably the best Marvel project in general that we've seen in Phase 4. And they were very respectful with how they went about handling it, and I don't think they could have done it better. And one of the parts I really liked about this movie was the fact that it felt like a sequel. There are a lot of movies in the MCU where it's supposed to be a sequel, but it doesn't really feel like that. One of the best examples I would say is Spider-Man Far From Home. It doesn't feel like a sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming. It feels like a sequel to Spider-Man, or not Spider-Man, it feels like a sequel to Avengers Endgame, which is fair. They had to handle that because it's the first movie coming off of that. But at the same time, there was nothing in movie 2 that built off movie 1. Now, with this movie, there's a lot. There was a lot of implications and destructions that were had by Killmonger that made their way into this film, and it kind of shows that we're not just going to make it a big deal in the first movie and forget all about it. We're actually going to continue from the first movie and show the effects of what happened. And I really love that. There was the fact that there were no heart-shaped herbs. One of the biggest parts of the movie is Shuri learning how to recreate it. There was Killmonger himself appearing in the movie when Shuri went to the spiritual realm, and then she kind of had to decide whether or not she's going to be like him or like Black Panther. And I really love that conflict. It was a great addition to the film. And then also just Wakanda, the state he left it in. They spend a lot of time talking about it. There was the whole plot line with Okoye when she was kind of kicked off the army, and they kind of brought up how when Killmonger took over, she just blindly started serving him because she's sworn to protect the throne, whoever that might be. And I really love that they played into all those aspects, and it really feels like a sequel to the first film. Picking Shuri as Black Panther was probably the best route they could have gone. I remember when they first announced that Chadwick Boseman had died, they said that they're not going to recast Black Panther, and I was very happy to hear that because that would have been super disrespectful. In a lot of other movies, they've done that where an actor maybe not passes away, but an actor steps down from the role and they just recast him and pretend like it's still the same person. But I'm glad they didn't take that route, and Shuri as Black Panther was the obvious best choice. I think it's what happens in the comics from what I've been told, and she killed it. She did a really great job. Her suit was awesome, and just her overall performance, it was great. Ironheart was introduced in this film, and I gotta say I'm really excited to see more because she was one of the highlights of the film for me. I really liked her humor, and that's the other thing about this movie is there's humor, but not as much, nothing like Thor Love and Thunder. This movie took itself very seriously, and I love that. I really hope the MCU learns from their mistakes and continues to do that sort of thing in the future. I think most people like when there's comedy sprinkled in, but they don't want it to be the main focus point of a Marvel movie. Yes, there are goofy things from comics that were created, and you can definitely make jokes about those, but don't make the entire thing a joke. We want it to take itself seriously. Namor was one of the better MCU villains that we've gotten in recent times. I wouldn't say he was better than Killmonger by any means, but I did really like what they did. They fleshed out his backstory. Admittedly, they could have done a little more with that, so I'm hoping we get some sort of either solo project, whether that be a show or a movie for Namor and the people of the Talokan. I think I'm saying that right. Or if not that, then whenever he appears next, dive a little deeper into his backstory. I'd really like to see more. Even though this was one of the best movies we've seen in Phase 4, it's not without its flaws. It's no perfect movie by any means. I definitely enjoyed the first Black Panther more, even though, those CGI parts. But that aside, this movie did have some flaws. The first one that I noticed was it dragged a little bit, not too much, nothing crazy, and I think it honestly needed to drag because they had to work with Chadwick Boseman's death. So I understand that. The part where I think it drags for me though is how long it took Shuri to become Black Panther. I mean, seeing her as Black Panther was only really the last 30 minutes of the film, if I remember correctly. So I thought they could have done that a little faster. Also, I think the plot line where Okoye was banned from being in the Wakandan army was a little rushed. I understand this movie had a lot to accomplish and not that much time, so that probably got chucked to the wayside, but I would have liked to see that explored more. It was a very emotional scene, and it seemed to only last for that scene. I would have liked to see a lot more of that. And also, the ending with Shuri and Namor, where she spares his life, I understand why she did that. She didn't want to be like Killmonger. She wanted to be like T'Challa. That makes sense. However, it's a little far-fetched in my opinion because even if Shuri agrees to spare Namor and stop fighting the Talokan, the entire nation of Wakanda is just cool with that. I mean, this man literally just came through, flooded their city, killed their queen, and then took off and said he was going to do more. And then he starts killing off a ton of their soldiers with his soldiers. It just seems a little far-fetched that everybody would just agree, oh yeah, we're cool with that now. Let's be allies. Like, come on, man. And this other one's a bit of a nitpick because I really like Kendrick Lamar, but I thought they should have let him produce the soundtrack for this movie as well. I really liked what he did with the first movie, and actually one of my gripes with the first movie is I don't think they used his music enough. They used the sound a lot, but as far as the songs themselves, I thought they could have used more from that album. I love that album to death. But with that being said, I'm going to end the review here. Overall, the movie was really good. I'd give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. I mean, they really crushed it, and it's good to see that the MCU isn't dead. They just had a few misses, which I think is normal for this kind of stage of what they're doing with the cinematic universe. They're coming off of the biggest movie event in history, arguably, with Endgame, and now they've got to go back to solo films. Comics run into this problem too, but at the end of the day, I still think most of their lineup for Phase 4 was good, and this was definitely the highlight, and I cannot wait to see what they do with Phase 5. If you guys like this review and you want to see more, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, like, comment, do all that. It helps me out a lot, really appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.